especially countries like Israel. It's like, okay, they're a democracy.
You know what bothers me the most right now? A lot of times, it's like for instance, that the education system here should let you have freedom of speech, and a lot of times they do. They censor. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you're going too far. So I think the universities have really killed students to be able to be themselves. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you can only say what you want to say if it's also what the university would allow you to say and want that said about that. Because if if you say something against the university, they're like, whoa, okay, hold the phone. That's not stop. You can't say that kind of stuff. And then they like try to shut you down, like they have actually. They've shut down a bunch of like students for justice in Palestine across the nation because like they've spoken out about it. So
I think so, yeah. So what do you think? What do you think the reason more students didn't show up at San Diego State? They don't care.
yeah, people are too like self-absorbed here. They're whatever. They're like, oh, okay, that's a tragedy. 10 seconds later, they'll forget all about it and worry about exactly what's going on in their day. They're like, oh, I have class. Like they kind of like pass and they kind of care for a second and they move on because like the way I think our society works is that we're always like focused about ourselves and our personal needs, that we don't often come together and like kind of like share solidarity on issues, like especially internationally and nationally. Like in Ferguson, like there's only a small group of us that actually stand up and say like, hey, this is bullshit, shouldn't be going on. Most people are just like, yeah, it's probably bad, but what can we do about it? Nothing. So I'm just gonna go eat lunch now and forget about it.
Yeah, exactly. I understand. Let me ask you this now: what happens if this was in their own backyard? What's happening in Guerrero? What's happening here? How do you think they would react?
Oh, I think they would. Ooh, I don't know.
It'd be kind of different, right?
Yeah,
now
people would be like, no, like this doesn't happen in America.
It's happening in Ferguson, like we said. It's already happening in Ferguson. So it's just kind of like, what makes you think it can't happen here?
Yeah.
You feel how many black men and brown men or whatever the San Diego police has shot down here too, right? Mm-hmm. Unarmed. I'm talking about unarmed.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not just Ferguson or Los Angeles up there my way. It's down here too.
People are just like, all they say is like, oh, I'm sure like that guy or that woman was a criminal because those brown people, man, like they steal and that's all they do. It's like people have such a negative stigma, especially my like relatives. Like they just don't get
that happens all the time too.
You think what's happening in Ferguson is almost like the cops in Mexico? Because our cops are corrupted, but there's probably no difference here either, is it?
Oh no, our cops, like I watched someone the other day at this school. Like I was like illegally crossing the school, just jaywalking like to the parking lot. 'Cause I'd either have to like walk all the way around. Like there's a cop there, I'm just like it's fine. Like people do it all the time. And there was African American boy who was like riding a scooter across the street. I like passed him while we were both like crossing the same path. I went to my car and like as I was driving out of the parking lot, like this cop was like yelling at this kid.
Just for that?
I don't even know like what it was for.
So what's your full name again?
There's a bias for sure. Rachel Beck.
Okay. So I'm here with Rachel Beck, reporting from San Diego State University in San Diego, California. Take it away, Michael Buell.
And the name again?
Rachel Beck.
Rachel, okay, Rachel, Michael. Had a question. You were bringing up about the hatred or what do you want to say, that they're probably, the presumption that they're probably already criminals. Mm-hmm. Did you hear that on campus at all, or in the dorms, or was this at the home?
I grew up learning that. Like I grew up in a society that like, like I hear people say something all the time, like, oh, like there's more brown people in prison because they are primarily the criminals. Like it's just what they do. And like I think that's really unfair because it's often like our power structures in our society that often like forces them in there. Like they don't have a choice. Like I think like especially looking at something like the school to prison pipeline, have kids that are like 300,000 Class C misdemeanors will be given out to like Texas students. Almost all of them are students of color. For coming to school like 5 minutes late, or like speaking out in class, or like and not even having their shirt tucked in, and so they're just like sent to prison. Like if they can't pay their fines, which are up to $500, like they're sent to prison. And then like so you're basically just taking out kids out of school for doing things that regular kids are like they're supposed to mess up. Like in school we're not going to be perfect, especially when we're in like our early years and like in middle school and elementary school. Like we're not going to be perfect students, but like you're basically throwing kids in jail like so that prisons can make like money off of students being in there. And then like when they are in jail, like they don't have their education, so they come out and so they can't get a job. So what else are you gonna do to feed your family?
And you use the right word.
Maybe
pipeline.
steal. Yeah,
that was.
But like, yeah, okay, maybe you steal like a little bit of food from a store. I would if I were in that situation. I'm privileged enough to not be and to be at this university because I've come from a relatively wealthy family. But
I appreciate your honesty, by the way.
oh yeah, I'm a 100% privileged. But and so I think.
I would steal bread for my friends if they were starving.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, and then like cops, it's proven that cops like will send someone who is of color to jail for like almost twice as long a sentence as like someone who's white, and they'll like automatically they'll keep increasing the sentences of someone of color, and so like then that creates like the stigma that these people are criminals. But it's like they're like, first of all, they're not, and if they do something bad, like it's blown up. And then, like, it's created that stigma when no one really realizes that it's the power structures and, like, often the white people in this country that put them there in the first place. So.
What do you think of all these checkpoints all over the place by Border Patrol? I mean, outside of the border, like Interstate 8, Sacramento, going to Temecula, there's a checkpoint before you get to Temecula, Riverside County.
Well, I think part of the problem is that through like some legislation that has been passed, it's like it gives the local police the authority to like every time they come into contact with someone who like doesn't have their papers or they aren't undocumented, they have to like immediately call like the federal agencies. And so like a lot of cops have been raping, especially like women of color who have like been coming and like they are undocumented, and like they threaten them. They're like, okay, well, I'm gonna call the feds if you don't have sex with me in this car right now. And then like these women can't actually go to report it because who do they report rape to? Like the police, who was the one who did it to them in the first place. And so like that's I know one thing that the checkpoints have served to perpetuate.
Did you hear about what happened in Murrieta with the refugees?
I don't think so.
Murrieta, California. They were telling these buses to go back because they were overcrowded in Texas, and they were bringing them down to California.
Migrant students, children coming across the border seeking refuge out of Central America because it's collapsing, especially in states like Honduras.
Yeah,
it's very difficult.
I have heard about that. I think like one of the just awful things is that like I heard this guy who had been on his own since he was 10 years old because he came home and he just like didn't have his mom because they like found out that she was undocumented, like they deported her back. And then I think like the worst, like you not only deport these people who are parents, you like leave their children with no place to go, and like when they're like this guy was 10 years old, he had no idea what to do. And then like when they deport these people, they don't even deport them back to like the place where they were from, so they go to places that like they have no idea.
Just across the border,
yeah,
and let them go.
And they have no idea, like, and that like has led to the increase in like sex trade,
child prostitution.
Yeah, because these people like who are deported have no place to go.
Well, a lot of them go to a place called El Bordo, El Bordo in Tijuana, which is a big story on El Bordo. You might look it up, BORDO. Let me ask you this: as a woman, if you had kids, 2 kids, let's say you had 2 kids, and they were starving in Mexico, would you jump the fence too? To give them a better life?
Oh, 100%. 100%. And people who honestly say, like, these people aren't supposed to be crossing the border, like, they're taking our jobs. It's like, I mean, number 1, shut up. Number 2, like, they're not taking your jobs. And if you were in that position, wouldn't you do the same damn thing? Like, to provide, and, like, to just provide for your children, I think that's, like, such a sacrifice. To go and like take that step and like risk your life and risk your freedom to like give your children a better life.
I want to have one more question for you. What do you think about the homeless problem here in San Diego?
It's awful. And like I learned something the other day that for every 1 homeless person in America, there are 6 vacant homes. It's like that's so like, yeah, like if we really care about like the people who are homeless, I don't know. I think that just shows a lot about our culture and our society here. And I think like what they've done in San Diego pretty recently is that they basically like don't allow you to just feed the homeless. Like you can get a ticket for that, a mighty fine for like just giving the guy on your like the street like a sandwich. And I also think it's a big problem that like a lot of people, like 1 out of every 3 men on the street like was in a uniform for America and like has
High number of veterans in the homeless ranks.
yeah.
So
And
did you hear the story about the 90-year-old that's been arrested for beating the
Yes,
homeless?
all the time.
Okay.
And like he doesn't stop.
No, he doesn't stop.
And they say, you know, oh well, like you could be poisoning them. But I'm like, where are the incidents of people poisoning the homeless? Like, where are they? Like, I want to see them because it's mostly just like people just like giving them food. No one like deliberately has like put anything into them. I mean, maybe it's happened. I can't say like it hasn't, but like, where are the instances that you're like coming from?
Well, you know, we have these myths coming from a different country. We have these myths how wonderful we are in the United States to help every other country. But have you noticed that if we really want to help countries without an agenda, how come we're not feeding or helping the Sudan, the poorest country in the world, right? We're only helping the countries where there's a special interest in the United States.
Oh, always. Yeah, we don't actually give a shit about it. Like, we always, like, it upsets me. Like, I'm never going to say that I support the troops just because, like, like we send these people who we kind of like force people. We're like, oh, well, if you can't pay for college and all this stuff, like, look, you can like go into our military and then we're gonna send you off and like get you killed, and then you like fight for our freedom, even though we're like the biggest incarceration nation in the world. And then, you know, then like to fight for our freedom, like they go over there and to protect our children, like they go ahead and like bomb schools in Iraq. And they kill like millions of kids. It's like I would never ask someone to go kill someone else's kids to protect my future kids. So I mean that's something that really upsets me. And then like that whole scandal with the VA hospitals, like not even like veterans dying from like not receiving simple things like colonoscopies and just like them like hiding the paperwork. It's like we send these people off and then they come back and we, you know, deck them in medals and then we're like, you don't have basic health care. We have all these like, you know, a lot of them have PTSD, but we're not going to help you out with that. So you can't really get a job, and then they're on the streets, and then we're like, oh, you can't feed the homeless. They probably just sit there, and you also can't loiter on the street, or you can get a ticket. And so it's like we're basically just criminalizing homelessness, and a lot of these people are people who have like gone out there and like served our government's interests.
And a lot of people are only a check away from being homeless.
Yeah.
Also, so yeah.
Oh yeah.
Thanks for your time and your honesty. Okay?
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Nice meeting you.
Same here. You want to take a still picture, Mike?
Yeah, but I was wondering what brought you here today.
I'm on the debate team, and from that, just researching, because I honestly like came to school a conservative little Republican girl because I didn't know any better, and then when I started really looking into issues through the debate team, through the people I've met, I like got involved in ACHA and Students for Justice in Palestine and concerned students and other like groups because like the things I researched upset me and I wanted to take a stand against them because it's not right. And so if I have extra time, if I have like the time and I'm not like missing a really important class, like I'll for sure be out here.
Did you choose a major?
Yeah, I'm an international security and conflict resolution major.
Oh, they offer that here.
Yes, and I'm a minor in women's studies.
Oh, righteous. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
So this is San Diego State University. Michael Buell going out off deck.